بالفيديو الماضي تكلمنا عن الكتاب الأول بسلسلة كتاب الشمس الجديدة لجين وولف، ظل المعذب The Shadow of the Torturer، واللي كان أشبه برحلة سريالية أو قصة شعبية خيالية أو حلم غريب. وأنهيت الفيديو بمقتطفات من محادثتي عن الكتاب مع صناع بودكاست ReReading جين وولف. اليوم رح نسوي نفس الشيء بنفس الطريقة ونفس التشكيل، لكن عن الكتاب الثاني The Claw of the Conciliator، مخلب المصلح. الكتابين مجموعين بالأديشن هذا اللي معاي. بدون مطمطة ودخول بالتفاصيل، بسم الله نبدأ. نشوف الأحداث بعد ما يقارب أسبوع من حادثة الجدار العظيم والفوضى الغريبة اللي صارت للشخصيات هناك، ونشوف سيفيريان ويونس، ويبدو أنهم صاروا الآن أصحاب. يونس هو اللي وصفته بأنه بحار بين النجوم، وهو اللي استرق السمع للمجموعة عند الجدار وانقطع سرده عن تاريخ الجدار العظيم بالفوضى اللي صارت، وهو آخر شخصية تم تقديمها بالكتاب الأول. هم الآن بقرية اسمها سولتس، وفي حديث عن اقتراب الحرب بين الأسكينز والأوتارك، وهو شيء رح نتكلم عنه بالكتب الجاية إن شاء الله. سيفيريان يقرر يستغل مهارته كمعذب بأنه يصير جلاد وين ما احتاجوه ليكسب شيء من المال. لما يعرض خدماته، أول ضحية تقدم له هي أحد الثوار، أحد رجال فودلس واللي اسمه بيرنوك. للتذكير، فودلس هو اللي أعطى العملة المعدنية لسيفيريان بعد مساعدته له ببداية الكتاب الأول.
وأما بارنوك فلن ينجو البتة. أنا الذي كان ينبغي أن أكون له صاحبا سأوسمه وأحطمه على العجلة، ثم سأفصل رأسه عن جسده.
سيفيريان ينفذ الحكم، ومن بين الحضور يلمح وجه آجية ويبدأ يسأل عنها الناس ويوصفها لهم. هل فعلا آجية هنا؟ هل تلاحقه عشان تنتقم منه؟ بمحاولة البحث والسؤال هذه يسمع صوت ينادي بالقرب من خيمة، صوت يقول إن عندنا مخلوق أخضر من المستقبل، مخلوق منحدر من النبات. ادفعوا واسألوا طالعكم وهو رح يكشف لكم مستقبلكم. سيفيريان يدفع ويدخل، وفعلا في مخلوق أخضر مكبل داخل الخيمة. وبواحدة من المحادثات المضحكة بالكتاب، سيفيريان يقول له هذا اللون الأخضر ما هو دهان، فهل أنت أحد أنواع الخضار فعلا؟ وهو دليل آخر من أدلة كثيرة تورينا قد إيش سيفيريان ساذج. الرجل الأخضر يقول:
لست نباتا ناطقا كما ترى، فلو سلك نبات سبيلا واحدا من بين ملايين السبل التي تفضي إلى التطور لاستحال عليها أن تحاكي في الخشب والورق هيئة كائن بشري.
الرجل الأخضر يتكلم عن كيف أنه جاء من المستقبل ليستكشف الحقبة الزمنية هذه، لكن تم أسره واستخدامه لجمع المال، وأنه جاء من وقت كانت الشمس فيه ساطعة. كيف والشمس أصلاً على وشك الانطفاء؟ سيفيريان يسأل السؤال اللي جاء عشانه، يسأله عن آجية. الرجل الأخضر يقول له رح تلاقيها فوق الأرض. سيفيريان قال لك أنت عارف أنك نصاب. الرجل الأخضر يقول رح أعطيك معلومة إضافية، في أشخاص مسلحين جاءوا يحرروا أسير فودلس بيرنوك. سيفيريان هنا يشكره ويعطيه شيء يقدر يكسر فيه أغلاله. ودي أنوه هنا لأن هذه المقابلة مع الرجل الأخضر وشرحها لسيفيريان كيف البشر بالمستقبل صاروا كذا ذكرني برواية هوت هاوس لبريان ألدس، واللي البشرية فيها صارت أقصر قامة، أضعف جسدا، ولونها مائل للخضرة بسبب إشعاعات الشمس. بعد أحد الإعدامات اللي يسويها سيفيريان وهو ياكل مع صديقه يونس تجي رسالة، والمرسل يقول له أنها ثكلى وأنها ما ماتت، وأن بعد ما سيفيريان أعطاها السكين لتنهي عذابها أطلقوا سراحها لكن بسرية. انتبه تعلم أحد. وتقول له كمان:
الآن أود أن أراك مجددا، وإذا أصدر الأب إنير عفوا لي كما تعهد بفعله سابقا فليس هنالك سبب يدعونا للافتراق مرة أخرى أبدا، ولكن تعال إلي على الفور. أنا في انتظار رسوله، وإذا وصل يجب أن أطير إلى المنزل المطلق لألقي بنفسي عند قدمي الأوتارك. لا تتحدث إلى أحد بشأن ذلك، بل اذهب نحو الشمال الشرقي من سالتوس حتى تصادف جدولا يشق طريقه إلى نهر غايل. تتبع مساره عكس تياره وستجده ينبع من فم منجم.
وهذا إثبات آخر كمان إن سيفيريان ساذج. يونس ما سأل سيفيريان وش قرأ، لكنه وقف عشان يساعده بأي شيء بعد ما شاف تعابير وجهه. سيفيريان ما قال له أي شيء غير إني راح أحتاج حيوانك للرحلة. قال له أبشر يا أبو المعذبين. أمزح، قال له من دواعي سروري. سيفيريان يوصل الكهف الموصوف بالرسالة ويصرخ بأعلى صوته مناديا لثكلى، لكن ما يسمع إلا صداه، فتعمق أكثر لين شاف نور، وبعدها هذا النور تحول لعدة أنوار مشابهة وكأنه تكاثر.
من الصعب علي التركيز على أحداث الدقائق القليلة التالية، لعل كل شخص يحتفظ في وعيه الباطن بلحظات معينة من الرعب، تماما كما كان قبو سجننا المحصن يحتجز في أدنى مستوياته المأهولة أولئك النزلاء الذين دمرت عقولهم منذ زمن طويل. أو تحولت إلى وعي لم يعد بشرا، ومثلهم تصرخ هذه الذكريات وتجلد الجدران بسلاسلها، لكنها نادرا ما ترفع إلى الأعلى بما يكفي لترى النور.
هذه الأنوار قاعدة تطلع أصوات مرعبة وفجأة بدأت تقترب منا، واللي شافها هنا هو مجموعة من الوحوش أقرب ما تكون للقرود.
فسحبت الهواء لأنادي ثكلى مرة أخرى، ثم علمت، فأطبقت فمي واستللت ترمينس إست.
سيفيريان هنا بالرغم من كل الإشارات ما زال عنده بصيص أمل إن فعلا ثكلى هي اللي كتبت الرسالة، وفعلا هي هنا. عشان كذا صرخ باسمها آخر صرخة قبل يسحب سيفه، ترمينس إست. ونشوف سيفيريان يقاتل بكل ما يملك بالظلام بمكان أعدائه يعتبرونه المنزل، لكن بالنسبة له هو سمكة خارج الماء.
سقط 2 و5 و10 حتى اسود الماء حولي بالدم في ضوء الجثث، واختنق بالموت والهالكين، ومع ذلك استمروا. ثم وقعت على كتفي ضربة كضربة قبضة عملاق.
سيفيريان يصاب وكان على وشك الغرق لما قرر يطلع الكلو المخلب من شنطته ويرفعه فوق. نور المخلب أذهل المخلوقات هذه وأوقفهم بأماكنهم، وهذه اللحظة صورها أكثر غلاف مفضل لي بالسلسلة. سيفيريان يخرج من الكهف على نور المخلب ويوصف كيف أن يد المصابة رجعت أقوى من أول. هل هي قوة المخلب مجددا؟ لما يشوف نور القمر خارج الكهف يلاحظ أن في شخص منتظره، وطبعا هذا الشخص هو آجية. آجية هي اللي كتبت الرسالة على أنها ثكلى. آجية ما زالت تبي تنتقم لأخوها أجيلس. وهنا نشوف يونس لأن كفو ينزل من أعلى التلة لحق سيفيريان للإطمئنان عليه. خطة آجية فشلت، تطلب من سيفيريان يقتلها، وسيفيريان كان على وشك، بعدين غير راية ومشى.
اضرب، قالت، أنا مستعدة. بحثت عن موطئ قدم جيد، ووجدت أصابعي رأس المرأة عند أحد طرفي واقي السيف، الرأس الذي يميز الحد الأنثوي. وبعد فترة وجيزة مرة أخرى قالت اضرب، ولكن بحلول ذلك الوقت كنت قد تسلقت خارج الوادي.
اليوم الثاني نشوف سيفيريان ويونس يتشاركون وجبة وأحاديث توضح لنا أن صداقتهم صارت أقوى وأقوى، ويتكلمون عن منشأ يونس ومن وين جاء، والمخلب اللي مع سيفيريان، وعن القرود اللي هاجموا سيفيريان، وأسطورة العملاقة اللي تحت البحار أبايا وإربس. بعدها يقتحمون رجال غرباء مكانهم وياخذونهم. سيفيريان يسأل، الملثم يجيب إحنا رجال فودلس، ونكتشف أن سبب أسره هو كون أعدم أحد رجاله إيردوك. سيفيريان يذكره كيف أن ساعده عند بوابة النهر وبالعملة الحديدية اللي أعطاه إياها. فودلس يقرر يسامحه مقابل أن سيفيريان يقدم له خدمة ثانية، ويصير في حديث بوجود ثيا أخت ثكلى عن العصر الذهبي للبشرية والماضي اللي انتشرت فيه بين النجوم. ويبدو أن هدف فودلس كثائر هو إعادة العصر هذا. يونس يعاتب سيفيريان ويعطيه قائمة بالأشياء الكثيرة الغير واقعية اللي يبي يسويها، بينما يونس بس يبي يشوف يولينتا مرة ثانية.
عليك أن تعلم أني صاحبك ولست صاحبه، إنما أطلب أن أجد المرأة التي تسميها يولينتا، وأما أنت فتريد أن تخدم فودلس وأن تمضي إلى ثراكس فتستأنف حياة جديدة في المنفى، وأن تمحو العار الذي تزعم أنك ألصقته بشرف نقابتك، مع أنني لا أفهم كيف يلطخ شيء مثل ذلك، وأن تجد المرأة التي تدعى دوركاس، وأن تصالح المرأة التي تدعى آجية، وأن ترد المخلب إلى النسوة اللاتي يسمين أنفسهن المتوشحات الباليرينز.
اليوم الثاني فودلس يدعو سيفيريان ويونس لوليمة. اللي راح يصير هنا والنتيجة المترتبة عليه اللي راح تستمر لنهاية السلسلة هو واحدة من أغرب وأفظع وأذكى الأشياء اللي شفتها بحياتي بالأدب. شيء راح يغير مفهوم السلسلة بشكل كبير جدا ويدعم كون سيفيريان راوي غير موثوق فيه. راح أقول لكم إيش هي وليش. أيام العصر الذهبي للبشرية وانتشارهم بين النجوم اكتشفوا أنواع حياة كثيرة على الكواكب اللي زاروها، وكثير من هذه الأحياء تم إحضارها للأرض. أحد أنواع الأحياء هذه مخلوق اسمه آلزبو. هذا المخلوق لما يلتهم أي كائن حي آخر مو بس يلتهم لحمه، يبدو أنه كمان يلتهم روحه أو الأنا حقه الموجود داخل دماغه. الوليمة اللي عزمهم عليها فودلس تشمل شرب سائل ماء مستخلص من الألزبو، واللحم اللي راح ياكلونه هو لحم ثكلى. يبدو أن ثيا أخت ثكلى طلبت من فودلس بطريقة ما الحصول على جثمانها، وواضح أن هذه الطقوس يسويها فودلس وجماعته كثير، لأن ببداية الكتاب الأول لما سيفيريان يقابل فودلس تذكرون وش كان يسوي؟ بالضبط كان ينبش القبور.
وكذلك نحن أنت وأنا نتحد، وكذلك سنتحد بعد قليل مع إنسان فاني سيعيش فينا حيا لفترة من الوقت، بما يستخرج من أحشاء أحد أقذر الحيوانات. كذلك تتفتح الأزهار من الطين.
بس مو هذا الشيء اللي رح يقلب منظورك عن السلسلة. لما تستهلك لحم أحد مع الألزبو بالطقوس هذه رح يعيش داخلك، جزء منه رح يكون فيك للأبد، شخصيته، أفكاره، ذكرياته وانطباعاته. أنت من هذه اللحظة أكثر من شخص واحد. طيب ليش هذا الشيء رح يقلب مفهومنا عن السلسلة؟ تذكرون ببداية الكتاب الأول لما سيفيريان قال أنا على العرش وقاعد أقول لكم قصتي وكيف وصلت هنا؟ تذكرون كيف دائما يتكلم عن ذاكرته الحديدية وكيف أنها لعنة بالنسبة له؟ طيب بعد الوليمة صارت ذاكرته مختلطة بذاكرة ثكلى، وهو قاعد يحكي لنا قصته من المستقبل من على العرش. الله أعلم ذاكرته مختلطة مع ذاكرة مين كمان. تقدر باللحظة هذه توقف القراءة وترجع للكتاب الأول وتعيد القصة بعيون جديدة تماما بعد هذا الاكتشاف. وأكيد استغربت أحيانا من اختلاف منطوق سيفيريان، وكأن شخص آخر أكثر ثقافة منه قاعد يتكلم، أو شخص أرقى وأحيانا أشرس. فهي تقريبا مو بس نظرته للأمور، بل نظرته ونظرة ثكلى، لأن هذه القصة هي قصة سيفيريان وثكلى.
غير أن شيئا منها ما يزال معي، ففي أوقات معينة أكون أنا الذي أذكر، لست سيفيريان بل ثكلى، كأن ذهني صورة مؤطرة وراء زجاج، وثكلى قائمة أمام ذلك الزجاج فتنعكس فيه. وكذلك منذ تلك الليلة إذا ذكرتها من غير أن أربطها بزمان ومكان بعينهما، قامت ثكلى في خيالي واقفة أمام مرآة في ثوب لامع أبيض كالصقيع لا يكاد يستر صدرها، وينسدل من تحت خصرها في سلاسل متغيرة، فأراها واقفة للحظة ترفع كلتا يديها لتلمس وجهنا.
سيفيريان يقول ليونس احنا راح نروح للهاوس أبسولوت، البيت المطلق، واللي هو قصر الأوتارك، وهذه هي المهمة اللي أعطاه إياها فودلس. وكمان يقول له راح نقابل دوركس ويولينتا. والغريب إننا ما شفنا دوركس من يوم كانوا عند الجدار العظيم اللي يفصل نسس عن العالم من نهاية الكتاب الأول. وهالشيء ينطبق على باقي المجموعة اللي كانوا معهم: دكتور تالوس، العملاق بولداندرز، دوركس، يولينتا، وهيثور الشخص الغريب اللي كان يبجل ويمدح سيفيريان. وهم برحلتهم يهاجمون من قبل مخلوقات غريبة أشبه بالخفافيش العملاقة، والإبداع بوصفهم وتخيلهم هو شيء تعودنا عليه من جين وولف بالمرحلة هذه. وتكرار ظهور هالمخلوقات اللي تبي تقتص من سيفيريان بكل مكان يروح له سبب رح نجي بعدين. الاثنين يلاقون أنفسهم بغابة، هذه الغابة الكبيرة هي حديقة البيت المطلق، قصر الأوتارك. وفجأة شيء يضرب خلفية رأس سيفيريان ويطيح من على حصانة مغمى عليه، يتم أخذه ويونس على سجن جماعي تحت الأرض. هنا كمان نشوف شيء غريب، نشوف الزمن يصور بطريقة غير تقليدية. نكتشف أن المسجونين هنا ما هم مرتكبي الجرائم، وإنما أبنائهم، وأنهم ظلوا ينتظرون مقابلة الأوتارك لين الآن، وأنجبوا داخل جدران سجنهم. هل الزمن تحت يمر بطريقة مختلفة عن فوق، ولا الزمن بالبيت المطلق عموماً؟
تقاليد من العالم الخارجي توارثوها جيلا بعد جيل عن السجناء الأصليين الذين انحدروا منهم. لم يعودوا يعرفون معنى بعض الكلمات، لكنهم يتشبثون بالتقاليد وبالقصص لأنها كل ما يملكون، القصص وأسماءهم.
يهاجمون داخل السجن مع باقي السجناء بنور ساطع. يونس يسقط ويفقد وعيه. سيفيريان يحاول يستخدم المخلب ليعيده للحياة. يونس يقرر يقول لسيفيريان قصته، لكن جزء منها رح يكون غير واضح بسبب جراحة وهذيانة، وهي كالتالي: يونس زمان كان أحد أعضاء طاقم سفينة فضائية اسمها غيمة الحظ، ونكتشف أن بعد إصابة بليغة تمت معالجته بأعضاء بشرية. نعم، يونس رجل آلي، لكن الآن هو مزيج بيولوجي وصناعي مع بعض.
قبض على كتفي كما فعل من قبل، ولكن هذه المرة بيده الفولاذية وهي قوية كالملقاط. سيفيريان، يجب أن تتحدث إلي، لا أطيق تشوش أفكاري.
وفعلا سيفيريان يقرأ ليونس قصص من الكتاب البني. لاحقا سيفيريان ويونس مستند عليه يتبعون فتاة تدعي إنها تعرف مخرج، ويوصلون لغرفة كلها مرايا. يونس يقول إنه يعرف هذا المكان زين، يطلب من سيفيريان يدخل الغرفة. المرايا هذه بطريقة ما تسبب بانتقال يونس آنيا.
أغلق يونس الدائرة وتحرك نحو مركزها، ولعله لفترة استغرقت أقصر دعاء. رقص شيء من الأسلاك والغبار المعدني الوامض فوق قمم الألواح قبل أن يختفي كل شيء لأبقى وحيدا.
البيت المطلق عبارة عن متاهة، وجدران داخل جدران داخل جدران، قصر مليء بالأسرار. ونعرف أن تصميمه تم من قبل الأب إنير مستشار الأوتارك، هو اللي صمم الحدائق النباتية اللي أخذ منها سيفيريان الزهرة السامة بالكتاب الأول. وهذه المرايا هي له. سيفيريان وحيدا يستكشف متاهة البيت المطلق لين يوصل لغرفة كلها لوحات وفي أحد ينظفها. أيوة بالضبط، هو نفس الكيوريتر اللي قابله بالكتاب الأول وكان ينظف اللوحة اللي استنتجنا أنها صورة الهبوط على القمر. الغريب أنه يقول له أنت وجيت سألتني عن مكان أولتن عشان تأخذ الكتب من المكتبة، لقيتها؟
قبل فترة جئت تبحث عن أولتن، ألم تجده؟ نعم وجدته، لكن ذلك لم يكن منذ فترة قصيرة.
من وجهة نظر اللي ينظف اللوحات، الحدث اللي صار بالكتاب الأول ومصادفته له صار من شوي، وهذا دليل آخر على أن الزمن يمشي هنا بشكل مختلف. بس دقيقة، هذا كان ينظف اللوحات بالستدل القلعة، وش جاب البيت المطلق؟ لغز آخر يكتنف كل صفحة. سيفيريان هو يرجع للوراء يلاقي نفسه انتقل بغرفة ثانية، غالبا داخل أحد اللوحات. أيوة هذا الكتاب غريب لكن بطريقة جميلة تولد شعور ساحر داخلك وانت تقرأ. الغرفة اللي انتقل لها سيفيريان يقابل فيها شخص بزي أصفر ذهبي، هذا الشخص هو جاسوس فودلس واللي المفروض سيفيريان ينقل الرسالة له. بس كمان هذا الشخص لابس لبس الأوتارك، بس فودلس ثائر على الأوتارك. هذا الكتاب قاعد يصير أصعب وأصعب. لكن لا تنسون أن بنهاية الفيديو رح يكون في محادثة مع بودكاست ReReading Wolfe ورح نجاوب على اللي نقدر نجاوب عليه. سيفيريان يسأله طب أنا وش أسوي الحين؟ قال له أنت نفوك من نقابة المعذبين لمدينة ثراكس، كمل طريقك، كمل رحلتك.
إليك إذن ما ستفعله. يجب أن تذهب إلى ثراكس كما خططت، مخبرا الجميع حتى نفسك أنك ذاهب لتشغيل المنصب الذي ينتظرك هناك. المخلب محفوف بالمخاطر.
سيفيريان يطلع من البيت المطلق وبعد مسافة قصيرة يصادف دكتور تالوس، وأخيرا كمان يقابل دوركس اللي واضح أنها كانت ضائعة دونه، وباقي المجموعة طبعا يولينتا والعملاق بولداندرز. وهنا في شابتر كامل بالكتاب على المسرحية اللي يعرضونها واللي تتكلم عن نبوءة الشخص الملقب بالشمس الجديدة. مألوف صح؟ بعد العرض دكتور تالوس والعملاق بولداندرز يقررون يرجعون قلعتهم، وتالوس يعرض على سيفيريان فلوس مقابل أنه يمنع يولينتا تلحقهم. يولينتا اللي بابتعادها عن تالوس رح تعيش أعراض انسحاب من العقاقير اللي كان يستعملها عليها ليخليها أكثر جاذبية للجمهور. واضح أن دكتور تالوس قرر يتخلى عنها بعد ما استغلها. دوركاس وسيفيريان ووراهم يولينتا يتجهون لمدينة ثراكس، وبأحد الليالي كلهم نيام صوت من النهر ينادي سيفيريان.
نظر إلى وجه من الماء، وجه امرأة كان بإمكانها أن تتلاعب ببولداندرز كدمية، لها عينان حمراوين كالعقيق، وفمها تحده شفتان ممتلئتان بقرمزية داكنة، لدرجة أنني لم أحسبهما شفتين في البداية. وخلفهما اصطف جيش من الأسنان المدببة. أما الخصلات الخضراء التي طوقت وجهها فكانت شعرها العائم. قالت: جئت من أجلك يا سيفيريان، ولا أنت لست تحلم.
سيفيريان يقول لها أنا حلمت فيك سابقا، وهنا يقصد حلمه مع بولداندرز من الكتاب الأول. هذه العملاقة تقول له إنها إحدى خدم أبايا، ولما قالت له إحنا نراقب العملاق واللي هو بولداندرز قال لها سيفيريان بس أنتوا تبوني أنا، ليش تراقبون العملاق؟
نراقب العملاق لأنه ينمو، في ذلك هو يشبهنا ويشبه والدنا وزوجنا أبايا. في النهاية يجب أن يأتي إلى الماء حين تعجز الأرض عن حمله، لكن يمكنك المجيء أنت الآن إن شئت. ستتنفس بفضل هبتنا بسهولة تنفسك لهذه الريح الرقيقة والضعيفة هنا، ومتى شئت ستعود إلى اليابسة وتعتلي عرشك. هذا النهر كيفيسوس يصب في غايل، وغايل يصب في البحر الهادئ. هناك يمكنك ركوب ظهر الدلافين عبر حقول المرجان واللؤلؤ التي تكتسحها التيارات. سأريك أنا وأخواتي المدن المنسية التي بنيت قديما، حيث تناسل ومات 100 جيل محاصرون من بني جنسك بعد أن نساهم بنو جنسك في الأعلى.
أوكي، إذن فالعمالقة اللي تحت الماء هم تحت لأنهم تضخموا لدرجة أن اليابسة ما تقدر تحملهم أكثر فيشيلهم البحر. ويبدو أن بولداندرز يزداد بالحجم ويوما ما راح ينضم لهم تحت الماء. العملاقة حاولت تستدرج سيفيريان للماء وتغويه، سيفيريان رفض، حاولت تصعد اليابسة لكنها انهارت تحت وزنها. يركض سيفيريان عائدا لدوركس اللي كانت تشعر بالرعب من صوت انهيار العملاقة. سيفيريان يكتشف بعد أن يولينتا عليها آثار جروح من هجوم أحد الخفافيش. سيفيريان يحاول يشفيها عن طريق المخلب، يفشل. يحملونها بحثا عن مأوى لأن يصادفون برج قديم في امرأتين سيفيريان سماهم ويتشز أو ساحرات، لكنهم يصححون له بعدين بجملة بسيطة برأيي توضح الأساسات اللي ماشي عليها السلسلة هذه.
لا وجود للسحر، لا يوجد سوى العلم مختبئ بقدر ما.
جهلك بالطريقة اللي يمشي فيها العلم ممكن تخليه بنظرك سحر. لو أخذت الجوال أو الكاميرا اللي أصور فيها الآن ووريتها لأحد قبل 1000 سنة، هذا بالنسبة له أكيد سحر. فنستنتج أن سلسلة الشمس الجديدة تميل للخيال العلمي أكثر من كونها فانتازيا، بالرغم من قلة الدقة العلمية بكثير نواحي. لكن لو تبي تتخيل عالم بالمستقبل البعيد، فردة فعلك وبالتالي بعض الناس هناك لازم تكون مثل ردة فعل الشخص اللي يشوف الجوال قبل 1000 سنة. الساحرات يساعدون يولينتا، لكن وجهها يرجع الوجه العادي اللي كانت تملكه لما قابلها دكتور تالوس كنادلة بالكتاب الأول. كل جمالها الصناعي اختفى، لكنها ما زالت ضعيفة. هنا يظهر شخص كان مختبئ مع الساحرات، اسمه هيلدغرين، هو أحد رجال فودلس.
يمكنك إخبار سيدك فودلس أنني أوصلت رسالته. ابتسم هيلدغرين. وهل لديك رسالة لردها له؟ قلت لا، لا شيء.
وطبعا مثل الكتاب الأول، نهاية هذا الكتاب رح تكون كمان غريبة وغير مفهومة، على الأقل الآن، لأن هيلدغرين يطلب منهم يشاركون بطقس لاستعادة الماضي، تحديدا شخص أسطورة اسمه أبو بانشاو. رح أعطيكم معلومة واحدة الحين عن أبو بانشاو الكتاب ما يقول لكم عنها لسه، واللي هي إن الكلو المخلب اللي مع سيفيريان يقال إن قواه تعود له، يعني أبو بانشاو هو نفس الكونسلييتر الوسيط. سيفيريان ودوركس يشاركون بالطقس الغريب هذا مع الساحرات ومع هيلدغرين، وجزء من وصف سيفيريان له كالتالي:
أما ما تلا ذلك فبالكاد أعرف كيف أصفه. لقد كان بطريقة ما أشبه بتلك الدراما الصغيرة في منزل الخشب الأصفر بالحدائق النباتية، ومع ذلك كان الأمر أكثر غرابة بكثير، ولو لمجرد أنني كنت أعلم حينها أن المرأة وشقيقها والهمجي كانوا واقعين تحت تأثير تعويذة الترنيم. والآن بدا الأمر تقريبا كما لو كنا نحن هيلدغرين ودوركس وأنا من لففنا بالسحر.
سيفيريان شاف نفسه أو نسخة منه بتسلسل زمني ثاني، وشاف هيلدغرين بمعركة مع شخص مختفي. يبدو أن أبو بانشاو وصل نشيد الساحرات ورقصهم. ينتهي الطقس الغريب هذا، ولاحظ سيفيريان أن يولينتا فارقت الحياة.
وبقيت دوركس وحدها منحنية فوق جسد يولينتا، وبضوء البرق رأيت الوجه الميت للنادلة التي خدمتني مع الدكتور تالوس وبول داندرز في مقهى نيسس. غسل وجهها من الجمال تماما، وفي النهاية لم يبق إلا الحب، ذلك الشيء المقدس. أما كوننا لا نقدر ألا أن نكون على ما نحن عليه، فتلك هي خطيئتنا التي لا تغتفر.
وينهي سيفيريان وبالتالي جين وولف الكتاب الثاني بكلام يشبه الأول.
هنا أتوقف ثانية. بعد أن اصطحبتك أيها القارئ من بلدة إلى بلدة، من قرية التعدين الصغيرة سالتوس إلى البلدة الحجرية المقفرة التي ضاع اسمها منذ زمن بعيد بين السنين الدوارة، كانت سالتوس بالنسبة لي هي البوابة إلى العالم وراء المدينة الخالدة، وكذلك البلدة الحجرية بوابة إلى الجبال التي لمحتها عبر أقواسها المدمرة. ولفترة طويلة بعد ذلك سأرتحل بين شعابها ومعاقلها وعيونها الصماء ووجوهها الواجمة. هنا أتوقف، وإن شئت ألا تسير معي أبعد من ذلك أيها القارئ فلا أستطيع لومك، فليس الطريق سهلا.
مجددا نشوف عالم متهالك، نشوف وصف ساحر لمستقبل بعيد، نشوف أحجيات على شكل مقابلات غريبة، جمل مشفرة، وراوي يقطع جزء كبير من قصته بأكثر الأماكن أهمية. نشوف قصر على شكل متاهة لا يتبع لقوانين الزمن المعتادة. نشوف مخلوقات من عوالم الرعب الكوني مثل أبايا وعمالقة ما تحت الماء. نشوف مخلوقات من كواكب ثانية مثل الألزبو. نشوف امتزاج هويتين وسفر عبر الزمن ومسرحية تتكلم عن المستقبل. هذه الأشياء كلها مجتمعة هي اللي تخلي سلسلة الشمس الجديدة مغرية وجذابة، بالإضافة لجمالية كتابة جين وولف. الكتاب الثالث والرابع ما رح يكونون أسهل، لكن رح يمتلكون نفس السحر. والآن مثل ما وعدتكم رح أترككم مع محادثات خبراء أعمال جين وولف، أصحاب بودكاست ReReading جين وولف. لا تنسون اللايك والدعم، وأشوفكم بالفيديو الثالث إن شاء الله. The Sword of the Lictor. I've never read so far anything by Gene Wolfe that is outside the New Sun.
No, okay.
Yeah,
Well-
so I'll be
Well,
going
to be
the
fair, I
fifth-
think the new book in the New Sun, all of science fiction has happened before you get to the book of the New Sun. That's basically the way I tend to read the Siberian's world. He is at the end. He's at the end of future. So
Yeah. And what you are witnessing is the aftermath.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so every one of those science fiction books have already happened in some place or another.
We're gonna see more in this discussion regarding the second book, The Claw of the Conciliator. We're gonna notice again the dead world and the aftermath of the golden age. And I have some important questions that I am sure, Mr. James, that maybe you are the only one that has answers.
I will be the one person who you can guarantee has some kind of a theory about it, or
believe
a theory that there is a theory about it. So
yeah. Believe me, I know, because you have no idea. I watched so many discussions regarding the Book of the New Sun, and you always stand out, Mr. James. That you always. I'm not saying that it's necessarily true or not. It's just you have a theory about, and it's fun, So, The Claw of the Conciliator, the second book of the New Sun series, we picks up immediately after what happened in front of the Great Wall of Nessus, right? Or maybe there was a little bit of time in between.
Well, I've kind of looked at this and I'm trying to work out how much time has passed, and I'm thinking that it really isn't all that long. It may be the next day, or it might be they may have spent one night, sleeping out, camping out one night, and then they've come into solstice. Because the reason I say that is because Seyfried is not sure, even though he's already rooming with Jonas. They become pretty good friends pretty quickly. Jonas has become his assistant pretty quickly. Seyfried doesn't know a lot about him. He doesn't know how much money he has. Seyfried's paying for the room. He doesn't know if Jonas has money to afford a room, or if he'd have to go someplace else much cheaper. So I think this could be the next day. They went searching for Dorcas and for Talos and Baldanders, but then they ended up, they couldn't find them, and they ended up at solstice, and this is the next morning.
Of time, Seyfried is working as what? As a
he's got a job as what's called a carnifex, basically a guy who's a head chopper.
Oh, okay. So not a torturer. So now he's a head chopper.
He's not. Torture is a much more grand concept. Yeah. It has to do with interrogating people to some extent if you're a master, and but as well as punishing people long term. Whereas a carnifex is just about getting the execution done.
Okay, so as an executioner, let's say, and he's doing it now to gain some money for him and Jonas to basically live their life. Okay,
he's expected to earn his money. He's given the sword because it's a long trip to Thrax, and he's expected to earn his own money along the way in order to get there.
Okay, interesting. And just a reminder to the listeners, Seyfried in the first book, he was banished because he quote unquote betrayed the guild, the Torturers Guild, and he was banished to a city called Thrax.
Right.
But he didn't reach that city now. So they left Nessus in the first book. Now they are in another city called Solstice.
It's been
him
about
and Jonas. Yeah.
And to clarify, it's from the time that he has his that he's exiled, or actually even from the time that he's that he is elevated in the ceremony until, and then exiled, and then he reaches Piteous Gate. That's about 2 weeks, a little bit less. Nessus, and he meets all these people. Things just happen very, very fast. You'd be surprised when you start paying attention how little actual chronological time has occurred.
One of the criminals, let's say, that Seyfried is going later on to execute someone called Bernok.
Mm-hmm.
And Bernok is one of Voudoulus's men.
One of his spies, yeah.
Spies. So that means that Seyfried now is working for the government, or let's say the autarch, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is why he will be executing one of Voudoulus's men who are, let's say, the rebels in this world, right?
That's right.
Because we are now trying to understand the rule of Voudoullus and his men.
Yeah, and, well, they're revolutionaries, and Seyfried is working for the government, and so there's some tension there, and he's well aware of that tension. And he would, I mean, he wouldn't ask to have to execute him, but since it's going to happen anyway, he sees pretty much his job is to have it done as quickly and cleanly and mercifully as possible,
and professionally as possible. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. During the execution, he thought that he saw Agia. He's not sure.
Yes, but he did.
But he did. Oh, okay. And we know that Agia, since he executed Agilis, her brother, she is now his sworn enemy. So
yeah. Oh, we get a little insight into Agia at this moment. He's over here looking for Agia, and he describes her, and everyone says, "Oh, well, that's." Basically, you've just basically described every country girl I've ever met,
Whoa.
Which is to say, she is from the north. She's from the north in the what Seyfrian calls the hot jungles of the equator.
He heard someone shouting in front of a tent, saying that we have a man that came from the future. Yes, the green man that
he knows everything. He can prophesy. Yeah,
yeah, and I laughed there when Seyfrian went in, because he said, Seyfrian said, "Oh yeah, this is not a paint, and you are not a flower." So and Seyfrian like, yeah, like what are you talking about? So my question here is, who is the green man? First of all, second of all, the green man said that he came from a future where the sun is so strong, but we know now that the sun is dying. So what is happening here?
Well, okay, so he's got pond scum in his veins, and so the photosynthesis feeds him, so that he doesn't have to struggle for his food. He's not in contest with nature. That's all been solved. And so, he is a, I don't know, he's a historian, a traveler. He has the ability to travel in what we'll recognize as being told is the corridors of time.
Interesting.
And so he has traveled back here, and he's got captured, and he can't get back, and he's chained, which apparently, in order to travel the corridors of time, you have to kind of physically move. So when you're chained, you can't do that. And so he's stuck. And the carnival operator basically forces him to work for him, because if he misbehaves, he'll cover the flap and he won't be able to get any sunlight, and he'll die.
And his answer also to Seyfrian's question, which, by the way, the question was, where I'm looking for this lady, okay, called Agia. And his answer, he said, above ground.
Yeah.
So Seyfrian, I think became a little bit angry or hostile towards him. But then he said, look, by the way, I have another news for you. Vaudelus's men are coming to try to rescue Bernock, right?
That's right.
So yeah. So what did exactly Seyfrian give him then? Like as a thanks to his new information.
Okay, so he's got a stone that he uses to sharpen Terminus Est. He breaks it in half and gives that piece to him, which he can use to grind down the chain that holds him and and escape.
Okay, interesting. So, and this is one of those meetings, that so many meetings in this series, where Seyfrian meets a character that has his own story that maybe we'll never see it paying off, maybe never, or later on in the series. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He goes away. We do see him again. I think we see him in this volume, and maybe we can talk about that, but it's also kind of a spoiler to Citadel of the Autarch. But here's something that you didn't mention about, there's a bit of a mystery that happens to me, as far as I can tell, when Seyfrian says, "Oh, wow, the sun is bright. That means the new sun is going to come." And he just kind of laughs at him. It's kind of an inhuman kind of laugh. It's got a little bit scary and weird. And he says, "Oh, I thought that you were an educated scientific man, but now it turns out you're just into all this superstition." So he has no knowledge of the coming of the new sun, which could mean that it's forgotten. However, he also says that he has knowledge of all the times that he's traveled through, which offers a problem. If he has knowledge of all the time that he traveled through to get here, then why does he not know about the coming of the new sun? And I have an explanation for that, but it's also a spoiler.
Okay, but I will be noting it down, and we will get back to it in time.
Sure,
if it's okay with you, of course.
Absolutely, sure.
So he receives a letter that says that it is from Thekla. And she said basically, oh, by the way, I'm not dead.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered. It's a cover up. So he goes there.
Mm-hmm.
And what are these man apes actually? Exactly.
That's a question that Siberian asks Jonas as well, and Jonas isn't really sure. He as soon as he goes there and there's no one and there's no Thekla, and then when he sees the man apes coming at him, at that point he finally realized, oh, Thekla is dead. She's really dead, and she's not coming back. And so he asks Jonas, did they evolve like this underneath the caves, or are they like the uplifted animals that in the piteous gate? That were serving the autarch. And he says, well, I don't really know, but all I'll tell you is I don't really see a whole lot of difference between them and you, except for the fact that they have glowing fur. And, and Siberian says, okay, well, then in that case, why did they change? Why? And when we didn't change it at all, if that's how it would have been. And Jonas gives him a look, and Siberian realizes, oh, I'm being an idiot. We have changed. We just don't recognize it. So we don't. Which gives you an idea of what does Siberian actually look like? We don't really know. Siberian is speaking analogously to for beauty and features. So I mean, we might look at him and think, oh wow, the guy looks like a big Neanderthal or something. So.
Actually, you can get an idea of how they might look in Siberian's world.
Mm-hmm.
If you look a little bit at history, at ancient history. We are so different from ancient humans. So
right.
So why not maybe the future humans not be so different from us? So yeah. Also, it's very important to mention here that almost everything else in the book isn't exactly what it seems or how it was mentioned.
That's absolutely true.
And I think the magic in the book is that it is written. What I mean is, imagine if some kind of depiction happened to the book, like a movie or an anime or whatever you want to call it. Yes, it would be interesting, but it will destroy that that piece of imagination because the way I imagine Siberian might 100% be different from the way you imagine Siberian.
That's
if
true.
It was depicted, but if it was depicted, we will know that the Matishan Tower is actually a dead spaceship, right? And then where's the fun in that?
It's really, this is a story that is told in literature and can only be told the way it is in literature. Exactly. People often talk, why how come we don't have any TV series based on the Book of the Sun? Why don't we have a movie? And it was, well, maybe it would just look like a regular sword and sorcery movie if it were like that. You would lose all of this sense of the towers and the picture and yeah.
So Siberian, exactly as you said. He said, I gulped air to shout Thekla once more. Then I knew and closed my lips and drew terminus est. This is where he knew, you know what? This is all a lie.
Yeah,
this is not.
It's Thekla. A trap. I've been lured to be killed. Right.
Yeah, and here's my terminus est. Let's try if we can survive this. Right. There's an interesting thing that happens here after the fight with the man apes. He mentioned something about a voice underground.
Yeah.
Under this mine.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, and what caused the sound underground? It was he's at the last moment. He doesn't know how he did it, but he pulled out the claw, and it was shining brightly, and the man apes are oh my gosh, they're just like the scene in the on the cover of Claw the Conciliator, and and that's when he hears it. He hears what he says is if a what is it? If a column were walking, if a building were walking, something like that. It's like a bang, bang, bang. And he doesn't ever say what it is, but he does say that it was a thing chained beneath the mountain.
Do we have any idea what is that? Do you have any theories?
Do I have any theories?
Yeah.
Well, no, of course I don't have any theories. I feel like I know exactly what it is.
Wow. Okay.
Let's hold off until we get to the antechamber, because I think we have enough information there to answer that question.
Perfect. Let's do it then. Okay. So after then, of course, he leaves the cave. He survived, and of course he see outside none other than Agia.
Okay, so he leaves the cave, and he discovers that Agia is out there waiting for him with assassins. So the plan was mostly for him to be killed by the man-apes and then to sneak in and take his sword. But since he's escaped, now they're going to try and kill him directly. Some sense, for some reason that Severien never articulates, Severien chickens out. He has the opportunity to chop her off her head, and he chooses not to. She's waiting for him to do it, and next thing she turns around and he's gone.
But you said it chickened out. What if the reason isn't fear? Because he's used to cut people's heads. Yeah, right. So,
yeah, well, it depends on what you think. Why is it that Severien finds it impossible to actually kill Agia? He's killed women before. Is it because she's a woman? Maybe. Is it because
he loved her? Maybe.
When he first meets her, he always derides her looks. Later on, he talks about she wasn't as good looking as this person. She wasn't as refined as that person. I mean, he does that all the time, but she's always at the bottom of the list. And but yet when he first meets her, he never speaks. Before he speaks to her, before he says anything, he says, of course I fell for her immediately. I could more easily resist the call of gravity when falling off a cliff than to resist falling for her. I think it's just that he is emotionally connected in ways that he doesn't really understand.
Okay, just another example of a very normal interaction that you think that you understand, and then when you talk to someone, you discover that no. It's completely different.
Well,
okay.
Just for the record, when somebody is spoiling the Book of the New Sun, it's just a guy talking, because this book barely spoils itself. And so, I mean, if you find my arguments compelling, most people don't, then then I have spoiled. I've given you the answers, but it's only until you come up with the answer that makes you feel the most comfortable. Wolfe wrote that this way. He never lays it out. I can tell you right now, he doesn't ever lay out exactly Agia's backstory or future story either.
And I completely understand why, because simply never explain your art, right?
He definitely doesn't explain. These books don't. People talk about, I may have spoiled the ending of this book. These books barely spoil themselves, if at all.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's this idea of the poet John Keats, and I forgot its name, but this idea is very like adapted by the writers all around the world. It simply say, don't explain your art, don't over explain yourself, don't over explain your message. And I think Gene Wolfe believes in this. I've watched multiple interviews
for Gene Wolfe. He almost never answers anything. So,
That's true.
Yeah.
Shortly after the Book of the New Sun came out, he was far more chatty than he ever been. But he quickly shut up after that. And I remember him saying to Neil Gaiman in a discussion I read between them, and where he basically says, the answers never satisfy anyone, but the mysteries never die. So
wow. Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, that's a quotable thing. I want to get a little bit away, if you allow me, from the book, because I remembered something. I want to ask you your opinion about it.
Okay.
One of Gene Wolfe's interviews that grabbed me immediately. The interviewer asked him about Dorcas, and he said the interviewer essentially told him, where did the idea of Dorcas came to you? And Gene Wolfe's answer was, then it was fascinating. But I want to ask you, do you think it's real or he's playing around? He said, I've never brought Dorcas into paper. She brought herself into the scene. My characters are emperors and torturers and fighters and giants and Lovecraftian entities. Do you think I have authority over these characters? I didn't create any of them. So What do you think of that?
I think that's very plausible. And that at this point, something needed to happen, and it happened. And he had no more, when he wrote it down, he had no more idea who Dorcas is or why she was there than we did. Because, and this is something very similar to J.R. Tolkien when he's writing Lord of the Rings. He said that when the hobbits arrive at the Prancing Pony, he had no idea who Strider was standing in the corner than anybody else. So,
wow.
It's very plausible.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, it's entirely possible. He did probable. He didn't have any idea who Dorcas was when he met her. I bet he didn't know who Agia was when Siberian sees her. Or who the giant was in his bed. I don't know. As like I said, he already had an idea for a novella, but that was all he had. Yeah.
Out of nothing, we create this world and all of these characters, and 10, 20, 30, 40 years later on, people are discussing these worlds that these amazing writers created basically out of nothing. So
right, yeah.
So who knows? Maybe these characters brought themselves into papers. Who knows?
Yeah, well, somewhere. Yeah, they must have been in there somewhere. I mean, if you've ever written a story, even a small story, and you've got to like the third draft or fourth draft, and someone says, "Well, where did you get the idea for that?" You will have no idea where that came. I remember writing that, and I remember thinking about that, but I don't remember where it came from. So,
Colin Wilson has a novel called The Mind Parasite, where it basically says that ideas are parasites that comes to your brain and attach themselves onto your brain. So yeah, maybe this is the case. Anyways, so of course he spares Agia, okay, and he gets back with Jonas, okay, living out their normal days, and then suddenly men came knocking into their doors.
They captured them, right?
They've captured them, and these men are Vodelus's men. And of course, Seyfried then tries to remind Vodelus of himself. Oh, I am the guy who fought for you at the gate, and you gave me this coin. And
right.
So then Vodelus said, basically, okay, I can forgive you, but you need to do me a favor.
Right.
So
Vodelus says that he had tried to come to Seyfried the night before, and just to meet with him. He was going to try to get him to be part of the group, help them Barnock escape.
The night before.
The night before he meets Vodelus. He had, they pick him up remember his men come and take him and bring him to Vodelus early in the morning. That he says, I tried to go talk to you the night before. What happened was the night before, Seyfried goes rushing out of the room, and he sees a destrier, and he just takes it and runs off to find Thecla. And Vodelus mentions, I tried to come to talk to you last night, but then you weren't there, and someone stole my horse and my destrier, and so here we are, right? So now he's had him abducted to try and save Barnock, and we don't really know what happens to Barnock. Does he finally get executed? We don't know.
Oh, we don't know. I thought that he got executed. I thought that he killed him.
Seyfried, we don't know what happened. Seyfried never got around to executing him. He was supposed to do it that day, and so but he got abducted, and next thing you know, he's off to House Absolute.
But then one of the most terrifying and interesting things happened then. Of course, we know that Thecla's sister, Thea is
right?
Yeah, is with Vodelus, and I think she's his lover. Yeah,
that's right.
They were talking in one of their gatherings about bringing back the golden age of humanity, and then maybe at that point we understand the goal of Vodelus's men, right?
Yeah, well, Vodelus's promise is that he's going to return mankind to the stars. That's his goal, and that's why he's working with Abaya. But the truth is, if the new sun doesn't come, and Abaya seems to be working against that, then they're never going to get off the planet, because for the same reason they can't get off now. There's no sun, there's no energy. The Earth is going to continue to get colder and colder. What's left of humanity is going to be taken off to the other stars. So he wants to take us back to the golden age. You think about someone who wants to take us back to the time of King Arthur, and have maybe has some glorious idea. And so Vodelus uses when he sees him when Seyfried meets him, he's got a classical weapon. He's got a ray gun. But then in the end, because you can only be what you are, Vodelus puts aside the ray gun and fights with a sword, a modern weapon.
Oh yeah, by the way, Seyfried, Jonas, we invite you to a feast.
Yeah.
And can you please, Mr. James, explain to us what is this feast and what is happening here and what is the Alzobosu?
Well, Thecla's body has been barbecued and formed into a kind of a sculpture of her, and so they carry out to the group in a big circle, and there's a whole ritual. They have to drink something, and then they take a bite of it, and the idea is that there's an animal, probably no more intelligent than a dog, but who when it feeds on any kind of prey, it adopts the memories and mind of that prey inside of him for a while, and uses that to hunt more of that prey. And so it works with people too. So there's a concoction that can be put together, and this concoction lets them all together take part. What they're looking for is they're always digging up bodies to try to find knowledge from the past, because they want to get knowledge from the past in order to bring man into the future again. And so that's what they're doing here now. However, Seyfried has perfect memory, and it seems to have bound him to Thecla much more tightly than for anyone else, who shortly after this event, the memories all fade, they go away.
Yeah, that was my next question. Why not so does that mean that everybody else is going to be bonded with Thecla after that? So yeah,
it's going to fade, and they've done this many times before. So these bodies are not permanently bound in their mind. Apparently, this is, we don't know. This isn't made clear to us yet. But the autarch does this, uses something similar to this, but apparently it is not the same concoction. It is slightly different.
Do we have any idea where did Vodulus and his men brought Thecla's body?
They must have. Seyfried theorizes that they kept her body in an ice cage, in an ice cave, until they needed it. So it's been since shortly after her death, they went and reclaimed the body and then kept it cold and then prepared it for this event tonight.
And it appeared to me that Thea was looking into this as a ritual to say goodbye to her sister.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, Vodulus tells her that you didn't have to come. I told you weren't going to have to come. She says, I still want to do it. Even though there is some risk when you absorb someone who shares memories with you, there are psychological problems that can arise from it, because you start remembering all of these events from the same event from different perspectives.
Yeah, which is very interesting, because it gives us a new perspective of how might be unreliable, or the level of unreliability that Seyfried has. Because now if you went back to the beginning of the first book, you are reading from the perspective of Thecla and Seyfried. It's not Seyfried anymore.
Well, his attitudes, his perspectives on these events might not be the same. He doesn't only report what happened. Sometimes he stops and thinks about other things. So,
yeah, and apparently, when you do this ritual, some people sometimes might perceive you like the eaten person.
That happens to him in the antechamber, where he's walking in the darkness, and the little girl looks up and she says she saw a woman, and then suddenly she went over and looked, and it was just Seyfried.
Yeah, and so Vodulus, what did Vodulus ask exactly Seyfried? He told him, you go to the House Absolute, and there's a spy there for me. I need you to give him a message.
That's right.
Basically. Okay.
Yeah, he gives him a little tube. Basically, it's a little looks like a sword or something like that, or a knife or something, and and that's his instructions. He has to go and give that to someone at House Absolute. And even though, but it's this concoction, this ritual, kind of binds people's will to Vodulus. So even though Seyfried, after this ritual, doesn't consider himself a follower of Vodulus anymore, he finds he can't throw this away and not do it either.
So after that request from Vodulus, Jonas tells Seyfried the following words. I'm gonna read them because they are a little bit funny, but also they taught us more about Seyfried. And he told him, but you must realize that I am your friend. So Jonas is talking. You must realize that I am your friend, not his. He means Vodulus.
Right.
What I desire is to find the woman you call Yolenta. But you want to serve Vodulus,
and go to Thrax and begin a new life in exile, and to wipe out the stain you say you have made on the honor of your guild, though I confess I don't understand how such a thing can be stained, and to find the woman called Dorcas, and to make peace with the woman called Agia, while returning something we both know to the woman the woman called Bellarines, which of course he talks about the claw. So Jonas here, he's a little bit pissed off, right? Like I only want to meet Yolenta, but you want to do all of these things.
Yeah, you're like a little bird. You got a whole list of things that of tasks you get to pick up on.
Yeah,
and Siverian points out that, yes, I know, I am exactly like that, and you're very single-minded. But then, look, we both arrived here at the exact same place. So
yeah. And actually, after this, Jonas didn't abandon him. They go together to the House Absolute.
Right.
So they go together to the House Absolute after that because, as we know, Siverian has a message to deliver to the spy, to Voudalis's spy in the House Absolute.
That's true, but they also know that Talos and Baldanders and Dorcas and Jolenta are all going to the House Absolute. So they have.
Do we know why?
Yeah, there's supposed to be a big a party going on, a big celebration going on. They're supposed to deliver the play, and this is kind of a little thing to note is that who he might be talking to.
Interesting. I'll be noting this. This here. Okay, perfect. So on their way to the House Absolute, they got attacked, right? By weird creatures.
Notchules. Yeah,
yes, which is now, it looks like a theme. Siverian, almost everywhere he goes, he get attacked by these creatures, which is we're gonna know later on in the third book why this is happening.
Yeah.
But do we have any idea what are these? What do you call them again? Sorry,
they're notchules, and they feed on heat. Feed on heat, and so what happens is they're used they're from another planet, and Jonas is aware of them. He knows them as soon as he sees them, and they look like bits of flowing black paper in the wind, but they move very fast. And in seeking your body heat, they tend to stuff their enter your nose and your mouth and get wedged down into your lungs and you suffocate.
Okay, so they defeat these weird creatures, and
if you chop them up, they just come at you with more of them. So they can be divided. Let's say they can be divided, but it won't do you any good. It only make things worse.
Yeah. Okay.
And then as soon as they defeat them, guess who shows up? And he gets them, and he fires at his laser round, which attracts the notchules, and they kill the Ulan. And then Siverian feels compelled and to use the claw, and he resurrects him.
Interesting. So how did later on Jonas and Siverian end up actually in the house? By the way, at that point they are already in the House Absolute, right? In the Garden of the House Absolute, but they didn't know.
They don't know it. They're actually on the grounds of the House Absolute. There's all these giant statues walking around, and Siverian goes through a long little introduction before he that's kind of strange, and we can talk about it at the end of the novel about what they probably are. But they're these giant statues that wander around on the grounds, and Siverian goes to fight one, but they end up arrested by the Praetorians, who beat up Jonas pretty badly, and carry them both back to the House Absolute, to the prison.
Which is a very interesting prison, because all the people that are in these cells, they are not the original criminals. They are their descendants, right?
Well, some of them are criminals, and it seems to be if you have someone, you don't want to put them in jail, and or someone who has a plea and you don't want to have the interview with them, you send them to the waiting room to just wait. And it ends up being, if kind of deliberately in some cases, a lifetime prison. But you don't want to have to. You don't think they deserve to be executed or tortured to death or anything. So you send them to this waiting room.
Serve them cake and tea.
And serve them cake and tea every day. But for some of these people, they've been waiting. Their ancestors came to talk to the autarch, and they got put in the waiting room, and now their kids are there, and and no one leaves, and they'd have to be driven out, some of them, in order to send them back.
There's a talk about an attack with light.
Mm-hmm.
And then Seyfried somehow sees Heather enters these cells. What is happening here exactly?
Okay, well, Heather does enter the cells, and he has a friend named who Seyfried has already met with him, named Buzek, and who we know nothing about. We know nothing about Buzek, and we will never know anything about Buzek.
So mentioned one time only.
That's right. Well, Seyfried is going to encounter him later on, as we do, but don't think that means that we're going to find out anything about Buzek. So Hathor got arrested. Buzek escaped, and so Hathor is there in the antechamber. There is, in the night, the exultant teenagers. It's kind of a game they play. They come. They have a secret entrance, and they enter the antechamber, and they whip the guests with these electric whips. And there's a scene in Seyfried's memory where he realizes that Thecla was a teenager who whipped these.
Yes, I remember this. Yeah,
whipped the guests.
Who did the exact same? The exact same.
Yeah,
thing. Yeah,
exactly.
Do we know what is the?
Oh, I mentioned it's not explained anywhere at any time. Of course I know what it is, but when they appear, there's like a green face that he sees when they open the door. And
okay. This is when you told me earlier that you think we're gonna meet the Green Man again in this book.
I think we meet the Green Man again, but
instance.
We're not only going to meet the Green Man again. Yeah, we're going to meet the Green Man here, but we only find out why later on.
Yeah, perfect. See, I'm following you, Mr. James.
Yeah, very good. Excellent.
I'm following Gene Wolfe, which is both very hard. Okay. So yeah, interesting. Do we know what is the light? There was a talk about there's an attack happened. Okay, in the antechamber.
There's a door. There's a door that opens. They go in through a little side door, and so there's some light coming in. There's like a green face. And then there's the lights from the whips, from the electric whips that they whip the people with.
Okay, and then Jonas, he became wounded, basically, right?
Yeah, he got wounded by the Praetorians, and he's never been quite right. But he's also talking to the people in the antechamber and realizes how long they've been here. And there's also a sense that perhaps he remembers that one of the ancestors of these people was the navigator on his ship when he crash landed on Earth. And we get some information that they had come back. They'd been away for a long time, which happens when you get marooned, stuck between the stars or whatever. And they came back, and there was no place to land, and they ended up crash landing because they'd been gone too long, and they ended up crash landing, and they landed on this guy out there, and it's at this point that Seyfried begins to discover that Jonas is not a man, not a man with a robot arm. He is a robot with a bunch of man parts attached on him.
Jonas tells Seyfried, don't leave me with my thoughts. Read me something, and he read him a story from the Brown Book, right?
It was a
very nice moment.
Yeah, the story of the sailor and of the student and his son, and it's okay. So it's built on top of a little bit of the story of Theseus and the Minotaur, a little bit of the story of the USS Monitor and the Confederate ship, the Virginia. It's a little, and in my opinion, it's a mythological, cosmic mythological myth, which in other words, much of this story is told, basically mapped out onto the starry heavens of the night sky. And this is kind of important if you want to know what that creature was in the man-apes cave, because so Wolfe has kind of helped us with this in his little book of essays, The Castle of the Otter. One of the things he's talking about the naming of things, and one he names is Erebus, and who is one of the undersea powers. And of course, in Greek mythology, as Wolfe points out, Erebus is the consort of Nox, of night. And so and Wolfe says, which I guess makes him little Princess Noctua's stepfather. So consequently, we can know, oh, wait a minute, that means that Erebus is the Navis caput. And in fact, if there is a constellation called Navis, and it has a hull, and it has a stern, and it has sides, but it doesn't have it doesn't have a helm on it. It doesn't have the front of it. But if there were a front, then that front of the constellation Navis would be the constellation Cerberus, which ancient people called Minotaurus, the Minotaur.
Oh, okay.
So, and this constellation circles around the southern circumpolar region, around Antarctica, just as Erebus is stationed in the south in Antarctica, just as the Navis caput circles around his island during the spring, or during the late summer. In the northern hemisphere, he does poke his head above the horizon. So consequently, putting all these answers together, we do find out that the undersea powers are time travelers as well. The thing under the mountain is not under the mountain; it is the mountain, and he's chained just like the Green Man. And he is the Navis caput. This is the story of Erebus being captured and chained just north of Nessus, just north of Saltus.
I need to let that sink. Okay, I have so many questions here, but I don't want to go there. That's the thing. Because I know that if we went there, we're not gonna be back. But I'll be noting them if we ever. Which of course I would be happy to, but I don't want to pressure you. If we ever made a fifth conversation after we finish the Book of the New Sun,
sure,
we might discuss these things. Yeah,
okay.
Because it's so interesting to left out. It's so interesting to not be talking about actually. So yeah. Anyways, so Jonas is injured. And I want to mention one thing here to the listeners. This is not the first time Gene Wolfe includes these short stories in the Book of the New Sun, that they can be read separately, like completely separated from the Book of the New Sun and the events of the Book of the New Sun.
That's true.
And it only shows that we will see that later on in the Citadel of the Autarch. It only shows how much he adores storytelling. In one of Seyferian's quote in that book, and we will get to that later.
You mentioned that you're reading the Endangered Species collection. In that collection is a Brown Book story called "The God and His Man."
So Jonas is injured. Carrying Jonas, they will try to escape the antechamber, and they reach this room with mirrors,
right? And Jonas said to Seyfried, "Oh, please."
Which we've already had a discussion of those, of the presence chamber, Father Aneri's presence chambers, right?
Yeah.
He's mentioned. Seyfried has told a little story that he heard that he got from Thecla about little
the
Domnina
Botanic Gardens
going out there. Yeah.
So Jonas, when he saw that room and the mirrors, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. James, it looks like he's so familiar with it, right? Because he told Seyfried,
he says, I know where I am now. I'm on Earth. And okay, so there's a little, so you have to step back a little bit. So Jonas and Seyfried are trapped in the antechamber. Jonas is really suffering. And Seyfried is using the claw to try and heal him. Now, earlier, Jonas tried to get him to use the claw to escape, and it didn't really work. But now he is using the claw to try and heal Jonas. And what appears to have happened is not that Jonas is healed, and maybe he was as well. He was able to get up. But what's most important is that the man's parts, the man whose parts he was supplemented with, that man is also being resurrected. And he wakes up and he's walking with Seyfried, and you realize that now it appears to be the man who is in control. And he says, and he's going to, and they walk down into, Seyfried figures out how to escape because he dreams, and he dreams that he's Thecla, and he has a memory of them entering in to whip all of the guests in the presence chamber. So he knows the secret door, and he knows the secret word to open that door, and that's how they get out. So they go down and they go to the presence chamber, and like you said, Jonas looks at the mirrors and he says, "Oh, I know where we are now. We're on Earth." And,
wow.
And he says, and then he goes and he's going to step in. He says, "Oh, well, what about Jolenta? What will I tell her?" He says, "Look, don't worry about that. Don't you know where I'm going? I'm going to be healed, and then I'm going to come back and get Jolenta myself."
Okay, interesting.
So where does he go? A lot of people assume that he's going into some kind of portal, that he's going to be going off to a spaceship somewhere. And
this is what I thought first.
Yeah. Why not? Because you go into a door, you're going into a portal. First of all, let's go back to what happened with Domnina. She goes down to visit. She meets Father Aneri, and she says, "Oh, what is those little figures I see in the mirrors?" And Aneri says, "Oh," and he pays attention to her, and then he says, "Okay, well, I'm going. Well, tell you what, you can come. Why don't you come to my presence chamber tomorrow?" So she goes, and when she goes there, there's like a what she calls a fish. It's swimming between the mirrors like that, and she says, "Well, is it okay if I touch it?" And can I put my hand in it? And he says, "Oh yeah, you can do it now. Later, not such a good idea." And so then then the story ends, and we find out that she had fallen into his mirror, and he fished her out, and but she's returned. And then he sent her back, and she's always wondered if she came back to the same place, which tells us that she didn't. That she's seen in the mirrors another version of herself. And she who has fallen into the mirrors in another universe. And Father Aneri has fished her out. That's who he was fishing out, Domnina. And she falls into the mirrors, as he knew she would, and he finishes fishing her out and rescuing her. And and we'll get some more understanding about how that is, about how they're in the final volume. But so that brings us back to what is Jonas doing. We're told in the Cat that when you step into the mirrors, you become circumfused to the borders of Bria. And the borders of Bria is our universe. You become circumfused to the borders of the universe. And not only our universe, but the universe expands and collapses and expands and collapses and expands and collapses over and over and over and over again. So Bria is referred to as the totality of that process. And so every time the universes expand and collapse, they're going to everything happens almost exactly as it did before, except in small changes along the way. And that's how it slowly evolves over time until it's until maybe eventually it would be unrecognizable. And
Wow.
so what Jonas is doing is he is now circumfusing the borders of Bria, from which, just like the cat, he is kind of present and not present at any given time. And he can, from there, he can influence his biological self not to end up getting squished by a spaceship, but instead to find Jolenta and win her, because he's not just an old a man with an old face who's a robot. He's an actual full human being. He is Pinocchio become a real boy.
We've touched a little bit about the cat, and I said that I read the map, and I'm going to read the silhouette. For me and the listeners who are interested to read the endangered species, what do you suggest, Mr. James?
For well, those are all good books, good stories.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting. Okay.
I like all of those. I always recommend those. Of course, The God and His Man is a brown book story. If you later on, we're also going to Seyfarrian's going to mention another brown book story, The Empire of Foliage and Flowers, and if you want to read that story, that exists, which Seyfarrian only references. We don't get the details, but if you want to read that, that's in the collection Star Water Strains, which has another brown book story and a secret Earth story from
really?
the cradle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you want to, if there's I mentioned the book of essays. If you want to read that, that is in the collection Castle of Days, which has that little book of essays. Really great book of essays.
And I have Castle of Days, by the way, physically.
Yeah, and so it's got essay about where the characters in the Book of the New Sun tell jokes. It's got a lot of really informative stuff, and it also has a really good short story collection, and it has a second story section of essays that you can't get anywhere else besides Castle of Days.
Perfect. Thank you so much for clarifying. Now Seyfarrian is alone because Jonas suddenly disappeared when he entered this room of mirrors, and something amazing happened here and so weird at the same time. While walking in the corridors of the House Absolute, he meets none other than the curator, cleaning paintings.
The Rudesund, yeah.
Yeah, and he told him, did you find your way to the library?
Yeah,
and
it's as if no time has passed at all.
Yeah, and Seyfarrian tries to tell him, by the way, yes, I found my time, but a long time had passed or something like this. He somehow entered another room in the House Absolute.
Right, he's looking at a picture and he just kind of backs away. And next thing he realizes, he's walked into one of the pictures on the other side of the wall.
And here he meets the spy, Vaudelis's spy, the man who he's supposed to give Vaudelis's message, right?
Who happens to be the pimp at the House of Azure that Seyfarrian met.
And who also happens to be the autarch.
Yes, and he only realizes that at the very end. But yeah, exactly, and who also is the autarch, who also gives him some instructions about what to do going forward.
Which doesn't make any sense to me. But I will be asking this question in our discussion for the Citadel of the Autarch.
Okay,
because we will be touching on that, because of course, Mr. James, they will be having this conversation, both Seyfarrian and him, in the Citadel of the Autarch.
Yes,
interesting. Yeah. So here he this man, the spy in Autarch's clothes, tells Seyfarrian, you go there, you continue your life, you've been vanished to Thrax, you just do you do you, and you should believe it. Right?
Okay. Maybe I'm going to tell you that you should write this down, this little conversation down, because it's going to come up in the very last chapter of the Book of the New Sun.
Okay, perfect.
But he says, okay, so so he says, so what do you plan to do? And he gives them these very specific instructions that are very
Don't
odd.
change anything. Just go to Thrax. Yeah.
Right. What I want you to do is go to Thrax, telling everyone you meet, even yourself, that you plan to go there and take up your duties as the lictor of Thrax. And then I can tell you that the Pelorines are in the north, so you can return the claw. And when then later on, you will meet the autarch. And when you do, you must kill him.
Wow. And the moment I read, I sensed something off. The moment I read these words, when he said, "Oh yeah, you change nothing. You should believe it. You should tell anybody what. Don't change it. Just go to Thrax." Yeah. And here, it rubbed me the wrong way. It's like, why you are telling Seyverian this? What's gonna happen?
Yeah, exactly.
What you are afraid of? Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Exactly. He's afraid he's messed up his timeline.
Yeah.
We don't really have enough information in here. It's supposed to be confusing, and it will be confusing until you finish the whole book, and then you start thinking about it a little bit, and maybe reread it. Then you have enough to figure out what's going on in this scene. So he meets he realizes at some point through Thekla's memory that he's talking to the autarch and is impressed. He's led out by a guy in what he calls a Cenobite in robes, which is presumably Father Aniri, and sent on his way to find Dorcas.
Wow. He leaves House Absolute, and immediately Yolenta, again, Dr. Talos, and Boldanders.
Right.
And Dorcas this time.
Exactly.
And he is so happy to meet Dorcas then. And then the play happened, right?
The play we should not talk about. If you're reading, and my recommendation is, if you're reading it, skip most of the play, scan it. Nothing is going to be useful to you until you reread this book. And then maybe it'll be useful to you. It's not for a lot of people, they just learn to skip over it. And it is useful, but not on the first read. And they're kind of discussing the play, little elements of the play. They seem to be gathering more about the play than Seyverian is. And then at some point, Boldanders just goes crazy. And then Seyverian realized that Boldanders is not a man at any point pretending to be a monster. He's a monster pretending to be a man.
Yeah. Yes. And we will understand that more later on.
So he attacks these people out in the audience who pull out a weapon. One of the rarest weapons, Seyverian says, that exists. It's called a dream. And it basically, you see it, and you see a woman around him and a big ship, and then he collapses and falls asleep. But he keeps fighting actually, and he starts to fall asleep, but then he breaks up the play. Everybody runs. Seyverian runs. He's finally later reunited with Talos and Dorcas and Jolenta and Boldanders at a crossing, and they've been paid by someone we can recognize to be the autarch, though no one else does. And a couple things happen. One is Talos gives an explanation for why he created the play and invited Seyverian to be part of it, and it is almost word for word what Vodalis told Seyverian, which tells us that Boldanders and Talos are Hildegrin's spies that he had watching Seyverian. And so by that we know that Vodalis that Talos and Boldanders are taking money to be spies for Vodalis. That's one of the things they do. Dorcas mentions that when she was with him, they were always looked like they were on the lookout for something. And that's one of the things that they're doing. I don't think that I think they're working, they're spies for both sides, but they are definitely spies for Vodalis.
And also you notice that they attached themselves to Seyverian since the beginning. And they always meet each other again and again.
Which leads to the question of what was Talos? Who was Talos talking to, and what was he doing that night until he walked into the room?
Yes. You mean the room where Seyfried and
where
Ballanders
Seyfried
were
and
sleeping?
Ballanders are sleeping. Yeah.
Perfect. So suddenly, Dr. Talos gave Seyfried money, told him, just take this with you.
Take all the money, and we're leaving. So long. And Jolenta says, "Oh, take me with you." And he says, "No, we don't need you anymore. You're too much trouble."
And he tells Seyfried, if she followed us, we will kill her or something like this.
Yeah, he says, "Why don't you? How about if I'll pay you to just hold her here while we leave." And he says, "Well, it's not my job." He says, "Well, if you don't, we'll kill her." And he says, "That's your business, not mine." Which is that is cold. That is cold right there.
It is.
So and so he walks away, and he talks to Dorcas, and they hear her screaming, and he tells Dorcas, "Well, Talos said that he'd kill her if I left her there." And she says, "And you just left her there?" And then I didn't think he was serious. And so they go back and they save her, and she's been and Jolenta's been beaten, and they took all of her money, and so now she's with them, and she says, "I'm going to be destroyed." So she's not worried about dying. She's worried about being destroyed. And that's a key instance. What has happened? What has happened is that Jolenta has been literally objectified. She's been turned into a literal sexual object, and she needs constant treatments in order to maintain her appearance and what she is, and that's the idea of going back to losing all that is probably greater than her fear of death.
Yeah, and maybe this is why she told Seyfried at some point, "I can seduce anybody I want," because she got what she wants. She's happy with what she have, even though it is not real. And we understand at some point that she is the same waitress that Dr. Talos and the company met in the beginning,
right?
And she was
You'd
just
be surprised
the
number of people I talk to who don't realize that, though.
Oh, okay. Which I understand, by the way. I get it. Yeah. Because again, it's subtle. It's so subtle.
Mm-hmm.
So we understand later on that Dr. Talos changed her in a way. You can call it in our modern terms, like give her plastic surgery or whatever.
It's very extensive. The Kumeyan gives details of things that he does, that he probably did, but when at some point Seyfried has the power to see through her, and he can see that the transformations that he's done to her body are extensive, far more than the Kumeyans had suggested. And she's also said that she's been given a hypnotic suggestion, which, as she says, which in this state, people will believe more than any child. So she also
believes that she is beautiful.
She's told she believes she's beautiful. She believes she can seduce anyone, that everybody desires her.
Because Dr. Talos wanted her to act like that.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So they head on. They're north. They're continuing north because they're supposed to be still going to Thrax, and but Jolenta is getting worse and worse and worse. What's really interesting is they stop by a river, and he meets the Undyne. Yes. Suddenly he hears from the lake, he hears someone calling him, and it's the Undyne.
Very interesting encounter. Yeah.
She is, because of what we know, the encounter with the Undyne, we find this out from other things later on. The Undyne is, the timeline is not really clear. It's probable that when she saved him from drowning, he was, in her timeline, that's later, that she doesn't have any memory. She's just playing along. She says that when she found him sleeping with Ballanders, they weren't watching for him. They didn't know where he was. They were looking for Baldanders. They were watching Baldanders, and then he just kind of fell in, and they recognized him. And of course they take him. There's a little puppet show. Their expectation is that Siberian's going to kill Baldanders. But then this comes after that dream, certainly. And she's trying to say, hey, look, I can give you the ability to breathe underwater. I'll show you all these amazing things that you can
all
only
cities, all civilizations. Yeah.
Underneath the sea, whether those civilizations, it looks to me like there are whole civilizations that are living under the water that have, that everyone's forgotten about. And, hey, I can show you that. So, and then now here's a question. And the question is not really answered. Was she lying to him? Was she trying to drown him? And, because he says he was about to accept, and then Dorcas screamed, and he turned around and said, oh my gosh. And he drops everything, headed back. And then the Undyne comes out of the water to grab him.
Yes.
Now, the question is, does she only become violent because he refuses, or if he had agreed, would she have given him all those powers? And that's,
but she helped him before, right? So what is happening here?
She helps him later. I guess you're right. We don't really know, but she helps him later.
Okay. So one question. So
she's
this
Undine. The Undines are time travelers, and they're not quiet about this. They say that they can travel, not only swim through the water, they can swim through space, and they're walkers in the corridors of time.
Yeah, and we will get more information about them in the fourth book, because they are part of the war between the Askians and the Autarch's army.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. So after this, when Dorcas screams, he goes there. She screams, of course, because Yolenta has been attacked.
She's been a bloodbath has gotten her, or actually, there's some debate over that, whether she's tried to kill herself. In fact, but I don't know. It looks to me like the bloodbaths got her. And they've kind of drained. So as she's getting weak, she's even weaker now because of the bloodbaths.
So they take Yolenta. They will be trying to cure her somehow or save her until they meet one of also the partly unexplained encounters.
Yeah, they hear about the Stone Town. It's an old, ancient, deserted town, buildings made of stone, I guess. And they find the witches, the Kamayan. We've already heard a discussion of the Kamayan. She's like the mother figure of the witches. When they were in the Garden of Vinda's sleep, they discussed the fact that she had a cave there and that the Autarch would go there and consult with her. Now she's out here. She's out with her familiar, Marin, and who's an interesting character and will continue to be an interesting character throughout the solar cycle. And he's going to and they are.
Wait, you said 1 minute, please. You said the solar cycle. Are you telling me that in the long and the short sun we're gonna meet her?
We're going. We're not done with her.
Wow. Wow. Okay. By the way, Siberian calls them witches, but they are not witches. They are not human.
Well, the Kamayan is not human. Marin might be human. I don't know. It doesn't say that there's. I would once upon a time I would have said, yeah, definitely. She's a human. She's like the boys are. If they're young enough, when their clients give birth, they go to the Torturers Guild. The girls go to the witches. So I would have said, yeah, she's definitely one of those girls. Now I'm iffy on the whole thing.
Okay, and Hildegren is with them, right?
Yeah, Hildegren is with him. He's consulting. And what we discover is the chameleon is a cachygen for sure. And, but not all cachygens are the same. They all kind of operate with their own motives. And so sometimes she does work for, Hildegren and, and Abaya and and that's what, in fact, that's what it looks to me. I was just discussing someone about the Avern plants and why they were planted there, and that they, that it's said that they're to keep the manatees out of the Garden of Endless Sleep. And I said, well, of course, there's a very famous story from his histories that Columbus's crew saw manatees and believed them to be the origin of the mermaids stories, and so they're not as beautiful as you may have heard. So the undying. So I think the reason why we have those Averns there is to keep the Abaya's minions from going and consulting with the chameleon.
Perfect.
So
I want to clarify one thing to the listeners here, because at this point of the book, they didn't. This is the first time we meet the cachygen, because you mentioned the cachygen. The cachygens, the cachygens have another name called the hierojewels, which we're gonna, which is we're gonna hear more about them in the future books. But in short, they are an alien race.
That's right.
So
well, he has at the play he saw 3 cachygens.
Yes, when the chaos
Baldur's
happened.
attack them, they took off their masks and we saw these horrible faces that they had.
Perfect. So what are these 2 witches, as Siverian called them? And okay, so we understand now that Hildegren they are consulting him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then a kind of ritual happened there. Of course, Siverian in the beginning wanted their help to cure Yolenta, right?
Right. So he's going there to get them to cure. Well, they were going to, but she said, first of all, the chameleon says, okay, yeah, I can help you. I can cure her. She will not thank you for it, is what she says.
Because she knows.
I will do it.
Yeah.
So, but she, so he says, okay, she's good for now. And then they go and they help Hildegren. And Hildegren is to find some guy from the distant past and then get him to come along and give them information, because, they're all about digging up the ancient past in order to figure out how to bring humankind back to the stars. So he's going to have Siverian help him take this guy, drag him back to Vodalis, and get all the information that they want out of him. So that's the whole point. They're going to bring someone back from the past. And so the witches do this ceremony, and it's kind of like a seance, but it basically raises this ancient village here in the stone town up, and everyone, they appear to be like Incas, ancient Mayan tribesmen or something, and they and there's a guy who comes out of his house or his tomb. They say his house or his tomb, and Siverian recognizes his face as being the same as the figure, the face of the person who's buried in his own mausoleum, and and so he goes down. At first, everyone was knocked out, and then he goes and he goes down and with Hildegren, and there's a whole fight, and Siverian seems to be seeing things from 2 different identities at the same time, and then there's like some kind of explosion, and Hildegren was dead, and the witches have fled, and Jolenta has died. And Dorcas,
her face went back to
now
before.
Siverian can recognize her as the waitress that he saw in Nessus.
Yeah,
and he has that famous line. Our greatest sin is that we can. Yeah. That we can only the only unforgivable sin is that we can only be exactly what we are. So
yeah.
Which is also another weird and unexplained and not fully explained ending.
So
that is not an explained ending, and it's not ever. I want to say that it was not ever explained, because Siverian asks for help on this matter, and he said, in the next volume, and immediately someone comes and interrupts them before he gets an answer.
Which is a theme now in this series. Like,
Yeah.
it's as if Gene Wolfe taunting you as a reader.
Oh yeah, he's definitely doing that.
Yeah.
doesn't
You know what? I can give you the answers, but something else is happening now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where the claw of the conciliator ends. With this event, Hildegren is dead, as we said. Yolenta is dead. The witches flee, and again, Siverian and Dorcas are with each other.
That's right.
I truly again appreciate you joining me again, and I'm sure all the listeners. This will be so interesting for them and enjoyable once the translated editions are out, and they will be reading. Looking for answers. They will come here, and they will come to your podcast, I hope also. And and I'm sure there is way more to tell from your side, Mr. James. But again,
well, if we don't spoil the entire 5-book series, then it was an oversight. So every episode.
Yeah, and again, I tell all the listeners, please go listen to Rereading Gene Wolfe podcast, because doesn't matter how much are we gonna talk about here. Believe me, it's nothing. It's nothing in comparison. Because
go ahead and finish all 5 volumes.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Because if you care about spoilers, I don't care about spoilers, but if you care about spoilers, then you should definitely do that first.
Yeah,
because we will spoil it.
Yeah, and also there's something so good you can do later on. Once you purchase the book, you can actually read with the gentlemen, Mr. James and Mr. Craig, chapter by chapter, because this is their podcast. Their podcast is a chapter by chapter Gene Wolfe reread. So you can read a chapter, listen to their podcast, then read it, then read another chapter, and go from there. The thing that keeps bringing this series back to you after you read it is that almost everything you face later on, or you stumble upon, you see, oh yeah, just like the Book of the New Sun. Oh yeah, just like the Book of the New Sun. Oh yeah, the Book of the New Sun.
Right, that's a common thing on social media.
So when I
this is just like the Book of the New Sun. This is just like something Gene Wolfe wrote. Gene Wolfe speaks of this. So
exactly, because there's so many ideas in this series that when you almost read anything else, and again we discussed this when I was watching Annihilation and that scene happened. You said to yourself, this is the Alzabo. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's no way this is. So it's amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. James.
Sure.
Thank you so much for this. Have a nice day.
You
Thank
too.
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.